The void hungers, it comes for what it feels is owed. We know that Azeroth is central to their desire, but now that they're servants, the old gods are somewhat a bit out of the picture. It's time for the Void Lords to get the job done themselves, but they still need to have pieces on the board. They need a harbinger, a bringer of change, someone to bring their will to reality and draw others to their cause. That is where Xal'atath comes in. She clearly has been working this plan for a long time, maybe since the Scaleborn War for all we know, whenever Ridicron first made his bargain with a power beyond his control. But if speculation holds true that Xal'atath is perhaps even a fang of Y'Sharj himself, or some sort of fifth old god, as has been speculated since back in Legion, this could be a plan leading right back to the most powerful old god. Another harbinger is Ashara, one of Azeroth's most powerful casters in all of history, now a queen with the power of void. Just look at what she said the last time we saw her go through that portal. And her return to rule over sky, earth, and sea is imminent. We're talking perhaps even 11-0, if not by the end of this very expansion. Bottom line, it's all clicking into place, so sit back and enjoy while I lay it all out. As well as our sponsor, Boot.dev. Right, they're new, their founders are massive WoW players, and they're actually fellow viewers of the channel. And if you use code Bellular, you'll get 25% off. So, their mission is to teach you programming, focusing on back-end development and taking a unique approach. As in, Boot.dev is a programming RPG that serves to make your learning journey fun with experience, quests, levels, achievements, and all on their global leaderboard if you want to get competitive. Now, the median salary for a back-end developer in the United States for 2022 was $100,000. That's a lot of money. And it's a role that is often remote or hybrid. It's a really awesome place to get into. And with Boot.dev, you will learn back-end development with Python and Go in a self-paced way that feels like a role-playing game. I was a programming major back in university. I was focused on more C# and C++. In fact, in my whole course, I didn't even touch Python. So I have some skills, but they're not the ones that are directly applicable. And I know that I want to go and get started. And one of the things that I love is they just say, avoid tutorial hell by writing a ton of code. And actually going through their platform, that is so true. And the platform is awesome. You just log in and you get going. You can go through all their different courses. They have a massive amount of content and with a focus on getting you actually writing code. It is brilliant. That's why I'm also a user of their platform, because I constantly find myself using these no-code tools, fighting through a burning rage that I know I could write my own code, my own solution to a problem. That's why I'm on Boot.dev personally. I can script C# stuff for Unity, but I want new skills, and they are teaching it to me in a way that, as a programming major, I absolutely think is, essentially the perfect way to actually learn code. So these are skills that are worth a shitload of money, right? Being a back-end dev is an awesome job. That is their mission. So you can learn awesome skills, move towards earning a shitload of money if that's what you want to do, support our channel, and get in on a pretty damn next level way of learning how to code for 25% off with code Bellular. So to their founders, Lane and Alan, I am really glad you guys reached out. Your platform's awesome. I'm enjoying it a lot. Thanks to them for supporting our channel. With that said, let's roll. Dragonflight was about renewal and exploration, sorting out oathstones, whatever they do, tending to whelps, getting the Isles running again. But there has been that little sense of dread. Not quite everything has been as it seemed. It began with Sarkaret's hunt for Neltharion's legacy. He thought he was going to find something really cool that would bring meaning to the Drakthir. He heard the Black Locust, an ancient void device, telling him to seek something below the Isles. Elsewhere, we found old god tentacles and eyes hanging out in shipwrecks. There was something spooky, evidently, just below the surface. Next, we needed to be destabilized. Blizzard needed to throw everything that we knew about the old gods and the Titans into question. From Odin himself, we discovered a sanitized version of Azeroth's history, where the Titans were blameless good guys and the old gods were handily imprisoned. We discovered the ordering of Azeroth was in fact a far more muddy affair, but the key revelation was that the Titan Keepers did acknowledge some advancements made by the Black Empire. Keep that in mind, it's going to be relevant again later today. But The thing that locked all of this into place was an annotated copy of Azeroth's history that was found in Neltharion's personal collection of books, and his own little annotations in the margins of that book basically confirmed everything that Odin said, but from the perspective of the Void. And way more, to be honest. There are more than 4 old gods, it would seem. There's maybe more than 5, but it certainly seems like there are 5. There are continents other than Kalimdor. I mean, Kalimdor, the original supercontinent. There was also a Naga prophecy that we found on the shores of the Forbidden Reach. It was called Songs of the Depths, and it seemed to foretell Ashara's imminent return. That is when Sarkareth managed to get exactly what he needed, and in the wake of the Primal Incarnates busting open Aberys to claim Shadowflame and other Void artifacts, Sarkareth went in to find his father's legacy. But it was just the empty madness of Void, and he died cold and alone. That is when we all started asking very big questions. Right about the time that the whole room turned purple and Sarkareth started ripping very large holes in reality. Kind of alarming. Because that Void was a bit different. It wasn't the purple, goopy old god stuff. No, it was all, well, dark purple, dark blue, shimmering. It seemed to come from space. Blizzard themselves called this Cosmic Void. It had its fingerprints all over the Dragon Isles and finally pointed us to who Iridikron made his deal with. I think it all circles around this new Cosmic Void, but we didn't know that until we pretty much heard it from Iridikron himself in patch 10.1.5. Right, there's simply too much in this patch to chew over in one considered video. There are many questions about the timeline, but for today, I'm just going to talk about the stakes. What happens if the bad guys win? So on the one hand, Chrono Lord Deos was there to turn Nosdormu into Morazond. That's his job in the Mega Dungeon. But on the other hand, Iridikron was there to retrieve the Hungering Void essence from the corpse of Galakrond. That is what the Void Amulet was used for, and he was clearly returning something to the Void Lords, or whoever's at the other side of that portal. Now, the first time we did the dungeon, we go and we stop Iridikron, and Deos succeeded, meaning that Morazond appeared, and then Chromie broke the true timeline, rewound everything and subverted that destiny, leaving Iridikron free to claim the Void Essence. His victory speech was pretty much a good old-fashioned lore dump. He questions why the Titans wanted to preserve this timeline over the others. In the end, he pretty much said that they don't care about the faith or the suffering of those who kept Azeroth true to their path. That this timeline really is just cultivated to suit the Titans' ends, and nobody else's. Which, of course, we've actually known since Wrath of the Lich King. That little time where Algalon was, going to kill all life on the planet. And we stopped that in Ulduar. In the end, they don't care about the faith or the suffering of those who kept Azeroth true to their plan. This timeline suited them and nobody else. They would only care and only return if something actually precious was taken away from them. Like if Azeroth was, say, truly taken by the Void. I think that's what the Void Essences taken from Galakrond are kind of for. I mean, Galakrond, what was up with that? So Iridikron told us that the Harbinger will use this Void Essence to pry Azeroth from the Titans' hands, and that after that, when they come to reclaim what they've lost, he will be waiting for them. And he actually did kind of succeed at coming off as being pretty cool and smart. Unlike Sofal, which is a big win for Blizzard. Of course, we know where the Titans are. They're off imprisoning Sargeras with Illidan. So if something bad happens to Azeroth, they'll probably come knocking. And I think that's almost certainly what Iridikron wants them to do. Because when they do, it will be Xal'atath, Ashara, and the full force of the Void backing Iridikron up. Unless, of course, the Void throws this new toy away before then. Anyway, then he hops through that Cosmic Void portal, and there's a very obvious silhouette that you can see. It's no Blood Elf, it's no Night Elf, no, it is Xal'atath, right? A Void Elf, and it pretty much does confirm who the Harbinger is. Now, we've known much of this since 10.0.7, when the Naga prophecies started to wash up on the shores of the Reach. They literally told us Iridacron was a key part to Ashara and the Void's plan, but we didn't understand how until now. So, with that knowledge, we now know where the story's going next, meaning we've got to return to the Songs of the Depths. Did you think the Naga story was finished with Nazjatar all the way back in Battle for Azeroth? It seemed that was only the beginning, because they are the crux of understanding exactly what's going down here. Let's break down their prophecies.
Rise! Rise! Our queen calls to us from beyond the umbral veil. She has transcended the circle of stars and basks in her eternal grandeur.
Alright, this is clearly Ashara, and the Circle of Stars has two meanings. First, it's the final wing of the Eternal Palace raid. It was literally called the Circle of Stars. It was her seat of power in Azeroth. Done dealing with middlemen, she wanted the true throne of power, and of course, later in Nyalotha, when we would free her from the football bus, she would teleport away to Nyalotha and the Void. Or at least, so it would seem. Second, though, it also sort of represents the cosmic chart. Ascending, right, is going above it. Zereth Mortis was described as beyond the veil, so the idea of her perhaps going to the Umbral Veil likely means Zereth Umbra. It does sound like she has got that power. The last thing she said is that she was tired dealing with intermediaries. She was going to the true throne of power. Seems pretty obvious to me. Okay, the songs continue.
Even now, the Harbinger gathers the children of the first flesh to reclaim what was lost. They must remember their vows and serve those to whom they owe fealty.
The first flesh thing is actually quite new to Dragonflight, and it's been touched on a few times with Tyr and the dragons. But basically, dragons and all the first forms of Azeroth evolved from elementals. How did that happen? Well, this prophecy, Neltharion's annotated text, and some lore tidbits from the Uldaroth timeline imply that it was actually because of the Void. That's probably why the Naga think they owe some form of fealty. You know, serve your creators. But going back to Odin's history of Azeroth, the advancement that he was so keen to cover up could indeed be the creation of the first true life on Azeroth, the first flesh, taking elements, fire, rock, and from that creating a mortal being with true free will. So who then are the children of the first flesh? They are the dragons, the Jaredine, the Tauren, or as they were seemingly called initially, the Shu-Hello, or at least that's what they call themselves, the primordial trolls, and then the trolls, via the influence of the Well of Eternity, of course, even the elves. They're all races closely linked with elemental life, and they're races that we've actually seen join the Primalists. A hanging mystery has been, where did all those Primalists come from? I mean, there seriously is a lot of them. And when you dive into this lore, it kind of makes sense why they seem like a bit of an enticing option for a decently pissed off Azerothian who feels a bit jaded. Xal'atath could have been very busy in the background, even gathering them. Anyway, once again, the songs continue.
While they toil in the deep places, we will journey to the shores of Dragonlance, to the Blessed Isle, where the Worldbreaker first embraced the Whispers.
The deep places are somewhere other than the Isles, because the Naga go to the Isles whilst the children of the first flesh toil there. Could this be a reference, say, to Khaz-Algar, which is the new dwarven hold that we've heard about that is somewhere far away from the Eastern Kingdoms? They could now be Xal'atath's servants, perhaps digging something precious up for the Void. Wouldn't be the first time the dwarves dug too deep. But that's all context. Here's the bit that's truly prophetic.
As one storm recedes, another rises. The torches have been lit. The secrets he buried will strike as a dagger into the heart of his...
If the storm represents the primal incarnates, and more specifically Razageth herself, then as they recede, the Void Storm will indeed come. It is clearly imminent. But could this also put to bed Il'gynoth's prophecies of 5 torches lighting Void's way? Whether it's the 5 flights, or something that happened with the 5 sigils, let us never speak of those again, or perhaps the Oathstones, Void's return is imminent. All those whispers foretelling their coming are being put to bed one by one.
The Harbinger speaks of a primal power that seeks the end of order. Such rage can be bent to serve our ends.
Again, this is clearly a Ridicron. Think about Alexstrasza's very recent conversation with Virinoth. She warned her once friend that no one understands a Ridicron's true motivations. They may not, but we do. In his war against the Aspects, he struck a bargain, likely with the Void, but not the direct old gods that were zooping around putting funny things into the head of Nelthari. No, likely something a lot more serious than that. And his rage was then bent to serve their ends, and ultimately, actually, just itself, because he fights for the sake of the fight. It's what he does. His sole motivation is to clear the Titans from Azeroth, even if that means heading to the Void. For him, it's absolutely vengeance above all else. He literally does not care otherwise. That's the whole point. And I suppose that's what's supposed to make him menacing as a villain. He was quite significantly wronged, and all of these things have turned him cold. It could also hint at how long Xal'atath has been working in this. Throughout the millennia, she was passed down from hand to hand, many people, and the majority of those individuals we do not know about. Xal'atath would influence people, and much like the One Ring, it would abandon them right when they thought they would need her most. So could she have personally made a deal with a Ridicron 20,000 years ago?
A hunger lost to the ages will be reclaimed.
The Void put something in Galakrond, right? Not just the decay that we know influenced his creation, but that endless hunger. It had some form of end. And we also are fairly sure that Tyr had something to do with it too. So could it be that whatever the Void had done with Galakrond, in his experimenting, Tyr ended up activating it? But we do know that Galakrond was really one of those major, potentially world-ending threats. That's actually why the canon of the dragons is fairly important to the game, and why Galakrond is a figure who does loom over all of their history. Of course, a lot of this has been lost to time, but now the Void has it back, right? This essence, they have got it from Galakrond. And according to Ridicron, whatever it is key to prying Azeroth from the Titans' hands.
A dark heart left broken awaits the taking.
Are we talking about the heart of Y'Sharj? When we defeated Garrosh in the Siege of Orgrimmar, it disappeared in what felt like a final whisper. It really had a sense of finality around it. But there are still some Shav lingering around, so perhaps we could go looking for a fragment of Y'Sharj still out there. But it also could be a reference to Azeroth herself, because she has been through a lot. Much like how the Jailer wanted to claim whatever's left at the heart of Azeroth, so does the Void. The prophecy then closes out with the Naga doubling down on how soon this is going to be. But the brass tacks is, we know who the bad guy in the next expansion will be. Now, with everything laid out, it's time to put it back into the timeline, and we're going to work out what the next step is. In the deep past, Azeroth was an elemental world until the Void created the children of the first flesh, probably through their old gods. Some of these were the Protodrakes. The Titans turned up, they imprisoned the old gods, they killed Y'Sharj, and likely, within that war, Xal'atath became who we would know her to be. This is when the Void does what it does best. It saw every potential timeline and possibility, and it hedged its bets on the ones that led to them taking Azeroth. That is when Xal'atath got on the case. Meanwhile, the Titans left their keepers in charge, and one of them, Tyr, uplifted the Protodrakes as new protectors of the Titans' plan in Azeroth. But not all of those Protodrakes agreed. They called themselves Primal Dragons, far more proud, and they called themselves the Primal Incarnates. And over time, the divisions turned into open hostility and eventually war. The Void in that saw an opportunity. The Harbinger made a deal with the Ridicron for power, but it was not enough to win the Scaleborn War. The Incarnates were locked away whilst Azeroth spun for 20,000 years. Then the old gods began to reawaken, but one by one the adventurers of Azeroth took them out. Seemingly, that is when the conditions were perfect for the Incarnates to be unleashed on the Isles. They caused destruction, but a pattern settled in. We're currently trapped in that pattern. They're seeking power wherever they go, be it Shadowflame from Aberrus, a ageless hunger from Galakrond, and of course whatever is next with the World Tree. On and on the plan goes until they give the Harbinger what she wants, the means to pry Azeroth from the Titans' grip. No matter the suffering of those who follow them, no matter how strong their faith, the Titans will not return because they do not care about us. They will only return once Azeroth itself is truly in peril. When they do, Iridikron and the Void will be waiting. Unless this gets sorted out within this expansion, which I highly doubt. I think what we're seeing is Blizzard setting up an arc for 11.0 that they will follow. I think the next step is for the Void Lords to manifest and the Titans to return. The ultimate bash, the ultimate throwdown. Something able to ascend to the levels of sheer rule of cool the Legion was able to achieve. There have been a lot of questions in Dragonflight, but it feels like 10.1.5 has blown the lid on everything. And it's actually now quite exciting to get in there with the lore. It doesn't feel random and disconnected. It actually feels like these things are finally actually coming together. And it's not just, oh, Steve's given us a few more whispers. Where will they go? It actually feels like now things are going somewhere. But of course, like any good mystery, huge questions are thrown up with every answer. Does Iridikron seriously think the Titans will show up again? What's even going on with the Titans? Did they return to Zereth Ordos to lick their wounds? Have they returned to some weird planet to lock Sargeras up in? What the hell's going on? What's Illidan up to? What does he think about any of this? We don't know. It's maybe outside the story as it is, but like that return of Illidan, what would that mean? And if the Titans had to suddenly just leave and presumably wipe Azeroth clean of all the bad things on it, what does that mean for Illidan and Sargeras? What, do they just have a smoke and play cards with each other for a few thousand years? I don't know. Of course, now he'll know, Sargeras that is, that he was played by the Nathrezim and the Zoval all along. I mean, God, can you imagine how embarrassed he's going to be? Doubt he'll become a sympathetic character or somebody who wants to do good, but it could do something to a classic villain. By the way, didn't mention Ethereals once in this video. I mean, seriously, they've been watching us the whole time any of this has been happening. Even in this expansion when they slipped that little Shadow-forged coin into your adventure journal and you found it in like the 5th week of this expansion, that was Blizzard poking you with a hint. What about Illyria and the Void Elves then? I mean, this seems like stuff we'll be chewing, we'll really be chewing on it for the next few weeks and months leading up to BlizzCon. But remember, whenever N'Zoth died, Illyria didn't say, fantastic, mental clarity, my headache is gone. She said, oh dear, I hear new voices now. That seems like something that is, mildly concerning. Anyway, here's the guessing that Ashara, Xal'atath, and Illyria could be up to something in the game reasonably soon. But anyway, that's been a big old trip through the Void lore. Look, you know me, I love a bit of space. What I haven't enjoyed is whenever I've said cosmic stuff, I've more meant like whenever we're sitting down with the cosmology chart and we're going, yes, the color purple wants to attack the color sort of bright yellow and all these things are in opposition and blah, blah, blah. And it's all felt very, disconnected and passionless and cold. And with Shadowlands quite, just like cynical and ugh. If it's like, the big Cthulhu people are raining down upon the world, bringing calamity, destruction, and the end of all things. Just like with Endwalker, that, friends, is really fucking cool. And I'd be down for it. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know what your theories are, and I'll see you next time.